Hey up.
Hey up. Hey up, lad.
Well done getting here. It was a little bit of a treasure hunt to find the place. It did make me laugh how people kept coming in going, "Is this the long room?" I think it probably is. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really chuffed to be invited, and I have an autistic lad, so I'm very aware of a lot of the work that you do, and I do get involved in Brighton in a lot of things. It wasn't a big problem for me coming up from Brighton. My wife I met lived in Brighton, and I lived in Manchester, so when I was courting back in the old days, I used to nip down to see her. I used to tell people I've got a big sex drive. We will be breaking up into small groups and discussing some of these jokes a bit later on, seeing whether they were appropriate or not. So it's great. It was really nice listening to the Politburo early on. I didn't realise how much IT you have to do. God bless you. That's painful. I loved at the end. Simon said that was a small flavour. It's like a 7-course banquet. There's also, I've got to say, from a parent's point of view, what I see is the human side of it. I see the kid that comes in, and you can't replace that with robots. You can't replace that with Skype. And so, I really do thank you all for that. As well as being a producer of the thing, we've produced a lot of TV shows over the years. I've written some poetry, and I know you're not strictly speaking a poetry audience, people here for a start. But I'm going to read a couple of poems that I thought were appropriate. I've written one especially for St. Anne's, which I'll end with. It did strike me listening to everything today that when it comes down to it, you're in the love business. That's what you're in. Now, you've probably been northern, you probably go, what we're talking about? Love, I'm not, it's not a thing. I've got a little thing here. Let's have a go with this. That worked well, didn't it? I was looking for a picture of my lad.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Technology, eh? Where would we be without it? Doncaster. No, I'm only joking. My mum's from Doncaster, so I can say that. My mum's a Yorkshire lass, so she'd be very proud of me playing Headingley. It'd be nice. You see, we're filming it today, so if you could Photoshop it full, that would be great. So, it should be the picture on the beach, which is the first picture. That's the one. There we go. There we go. Right, smashing. Terry was talking earlier on about weather, and this is me and my son on the beach in Brighton, August bank holiday. Could be any day of the year, couldn't it really? He's 18 now, and we've had quite a journey. I say he's autistic. I think I'm a little bit autistic, to be honest with you, and I think my dad was. And I think, I say, being a northerner, in the past, you wouldn't have called it autistic. You'd just said, get yourself an allotment. Go in the shed. I get an idea of my dad, like a bonfire night. My dad, he liked the fire. I don't know whether your dad did it, and he'd watch it and he'd go, and then he'd go, snowflake, £1.60. And he'd do that with every firework. So he got his eccentricities and such. Now being in the fame business, because I've met a lot of famous people over my time, it always strikes me that there's actually more real people than there are famous people, and we've got them surrounded. That's a given. You weren't waiting for me to come over that. Some of them are nice, to be honest with you. But what happens when you meet a lot of famous people is they kiss you and they hug you. I was at one of these dudes, and my dad came. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm kissing and I'm hugging all these people. I don't even shook hands with my dad. Right, so I'm in my 50s, and my dad's nearly 90, and I'm thinking, I'm going to give him a hug. It's important, it's like today, it's important to show people you appreciate it. I thought, I'm going to give him his first hug. So I went up to him, and I gave him a hug. He stood there like that, he went, oh, that's very nice. There's a little poem that I wrote about my dad. It's called Tin Fruit and Evaporated Milk, which is what we always used to have on Saturday tea time. So it was last Saturday tea time when I called in at my dad's. He was sat checking his racing results. I held him across the room and I turned off the TV. Just a second, I said tentatively, before he started to protest. I've got something important to tell you. I hesitated a moment and I came right out with it. I love you, Dad. Don't be so bloody daft, he said. It's not daft, I said, I love you. All right, he said, put kettle on. No, you're supposed to say, I love you too, so come on, Dad, you've seen Dallas. No, I've not got time for all this bloody nonsense, he says, I'm off to Legion. So I'm following down the garden path and I'm saying, look, Dad, I'm gone 50 now. It's about time it was out in the open, I love you. And he's trying to shush me in case the neighbours hear. So I shout loud, I don't care if the old world hears, I'm not ashamed of my feelings, I love you, you're my dad. And give him a big wet kiss on the forehead. What do you say, Dad? What do you say? Oh, Henry, he said, where did I go wrong? So I was brought up, strangely enough, in a place called St Anne's in Nottingham. Anybody from Nottingham here? That's Sarah, who asked me to come, Sarah Kirkwood. Quality, I understand quality and safety. I don't know whether she thought I'd be quality or safe, but I should endeavour to be both. I drove up today with Terry, her husband, who said she's only on for 5 minutes, but it may go on. He says she's got a mobile phone with unlimited text and unlimited calls, and she still goes over. So I was brought up in St Anne's. Now, I was born with watermelons, and I nearly died when I was born. Then, because it was back-to-back housing, we used to play in bombed-out buildings. I got pneumonia when I was about 7 and I nearly died. 5 kids in the family. We moved from the back-to-back housing to a council estate, and I loved it. I loved it because I couldn't touch the walls of the kitchen. It was a big house. We got French windows, we got a garden, we got edges we could dive through. It was absolutely fantastic. Then when I was 11, my mum died. 5 kids in the family. So I know if that was now, people like yourself would be looking after us. So I love you for that. We needed help, but my dad wouldn't give us help because he was too proud. And now I know through my kids, my sister's kids, the way that the world works is it's all about community, it's all about us taking care of each other. And of course what we do is we take care of people in a way that the last generation couldn't do. And we hope to pass on that to the next generation. So I think that's lovely. I've got a little poem I've written about this. There's a saying about weather, that there's no such thing as bad weather, it's how you dress. And that's a little bit like special needs. We can all cope with things with special needs. It's how you address it, it's how you do it. This is called King Canute should have checked the tides. Taking your own chair to the beach is a commitment. Fleecy up, hood on, Better to keep your limbs moving, some might say, but sitting is a definite statement. We're not just passing through, we're making a stand, sitting firm. Day trippers we are not, nor ill-prepared tourists. We are stones amongst scattered pebbles, rocks amongst shingle. Bring on your highest wave, the glory is ours. We live here, we own this weather. That's stunned you into silence, hasn't it? I know there's been people that are not big fans of poetry, I understand that. I used to think pathos and pathos were two of the three musketeers. I'm really appreciative of what we do. So we went to the council site, and when I wanted, when I was about 14, I wanted to be a writer. But everybody seemed cleverer than me. How can I compete with everybody else? And so I tried to get into writing and that, and I realised what you've got to do is you've got to write your own story. So I wrote the first series of the Royle Family with Caroline and Craig, and somebody like Steve Coogan couldn't write that because he'd not lived on a council estate, so he didn't know how it worked. And all we did was we sat down in a room. We said, "What does your dad say? What does your mum say?" We'll write that down. The first line of the Royle Family is, "Who's been phoning Aberdeen?" Because my dad was always phoning about because he didn't have much money, so it was important. And he'd say things like, "Are you in this room or are you in that room?" "I'm in this room." He said, "Well, what's the light doing on in that room?" And we just wrote all these things down. And my dad's second wife, Maureen, she would always say, "Oh, I've still got my schoolgirl figure." And I wrote that. I wrote Sue in the Royle Family. I wrote that line for her. So I'm sat watching the Royle Family with my dad and Maureen, and I sat watching, and Sue comes on, and she says, "Oh, I've still got my schoolgirl figure." And Maureen turns to me dad and says, "So have I, haven't I?" She'd no idea of it. So I made a bit of money on the Royle Family. It was great, and I used to write the Mrs. Merton show. I don't know if you remember that. And I used to write for Caroline, and I wrote for Steve Coogan as well. I always remember the first joke I wrote for Caroline. They used to pay me for jokes, which is something I used to make up jokes anyway. I remember the first one. She used to have a character called, there was a nun, and the first joke I wrote was as the nun, as it were. How many Protestants does it take to change a light bulb? None. They all live in eternal darkness. 200 quid. Not bad that, was it? When you think about it, it took me 2 minutes. So I realised I'd got something that I could sell. So I wrote the Paul Calf. Does anyone remember a Paul Calf used to be on television? I wrote that. I always remember we'd have to turn it around pretty quickly. And I remember being at my father-in-law's, and I got a phone call from Steve, and he said, "I need a new joke, he says, "We've got Claude Van Damme on, and I want to joke about Claude Van Damme." So I said, "Well, give me 5 minutes." So I sat for 5 minutes, and then I give him a ring. And then about 2 hours later, he's on the television, and he's on the television there, and he comes on as Paul Calf. And he said, "Oh, we've got Claude Van Damme on the show today. And he's got that nickname, hasn't he? The Muscles from Brussels." So Muscles from Brussels. He says, and I like that because I've got my own nickname. Because I'm from a little Yorkshire village called Munt. Bit early, but we're all right. So what I found weird when we moved up to when we moved up to the council estate was so everything was bigger, and we had a bathroom that was inside, and we had a toilet that was inside, and Harry will probably remember we used to have a toilet that was just outside. So it's like they didn't quite trust us to have a proper toilet inside. And now I've got a few bob. I've got 6 toilets, and one of them's an ensuite. A very French, very la-di-da. And I thought this progression of civilization and this progression of doing well, it comes down to toilets. So I wrote this little ditty. It's called Private's Progress. Ensuite, replacing outside loo. From the luxury of your own silk sheets, you can hear your partner poo. So I met my missus from Peterborough, and I thought she was a bit posh. And I was a bit nervous when I went round to the house. So I went round to see her, and she said, my dad's a bit particular about, my table manners. So I thought, I best be best behaviour. And I got there, and for pudding, they brought an apple pie with a chocolate ice on top. Didn't give a toss after that. I thought they just as working class as I am. It was funny because I was in my 30s, and I thought, oh well, because we're a bit reserved. I thought that I'm going to sleep in a separate room. I'm not going to be able to sleep with Angela. And anyway, they said, no, we're very liberal. And they put me in this back bedroom, and Angela went to the bathroom, and I got in bed, and her mum came into the room, took me in. It was the best contraception I've ever come across. So we wanted a baby, and we had a baby, and I remember in Brighton you're on the 13th floor, which is a bit worrying, not the best start. And I remember at that time, you'd think when you have a baby, I'm sure there's lots of parents in the room, you'd think you feel relief, but I didn't feel relief. There was something about the fact that I think Angie had been about 20 hours later, and Johnny had fought to get there, and I felt determined. I wanted to give that lad everything that I'd had. It was a bit like, to use a football analogy, I'm picking the ball out of the net, I'll put it on the centre. Game on. That was my introduction to parenthood. And I think it's most people's thought when they really think about parenthood. I think it's what carers think as well. Game on. So, first couple of years, it's like any normal kid. Weird, isn't it? When you get home, you get your baby, and you get home, and you put them on the bed. I'm sure everybody does the same. And then you stand there, don't you, and go. There's no nurses or anything, is there? There's no instructions. You look around at the book, there's nothing. There's no instructions. And I remember for months, we phoned the emergency doctor up, and the emergency doctor would come round, and he'd go, it's just up. Open the window. And then eventually I had to come round just so we could open the window. I think, thank goodness we didn't go private. That would be paying for fresh air, wouldn't it? And we had all those ambitions and everything for a kid. Then the age of two, there was something not quite right. He wasn't. He got speech, and then he lost speech. And I used to say, he's like an early teenager. He's just not. He's just too cool. He's just not responding. But we went to have him checked at a place called sorry, I've got it in there. in Brighton, and he was autistic, is the thing, and I didn't know what autism was. I had no idea. I'd sort of seen Rain Man, but that wasn't what our little boy was like, and I had no idea at that time how he was going to be when he grew up. And I know we don't have that with any kids, do we? And all the special needs, we don't have any idea. But this is when I needed somebody like yourself, because there was a world out there that I got no map for. There was a world out there that I was desperately trying to understand. And so you go on the internet, you learn about all the different things. But essentially, I was given a leaflet. Now this is 16 years ago, and this is in Brighton. I was given and the leaflet said, incurable. First page. So there you are as a parent, you look at that, you're incurable, so what are we going to do? And they said he was mildly severe. I thought, I don't understand that. I don't understand. I mean that's a label we're putting on, mildly severe. Whether or not he found it mild or severe, that's only Johnny knows that. But I tried to understand it, and it came down to just what are the things he can do, and what are the things he can't do, what are the things he wants to do, and what are the things he don't want to do. And we had a few years when it was difficult because he didn't want to do anything. He wanted to stare out the window, and we were trying to coax him in. We were trying to show, no matter what we did, nothing we could buy, nothing we could say would do it. It was a constant. I'm sure you've come across this. It's a constant journey to try and bring him to us. We looked at everything we could, and when we even went swimming with dolphins. I mean, we tried every daft idea that was going. We came across a documentary called Sunrise, and it was some American system, and we thought, well, if anybody knows anything about interface communication, it's going to be the Americans. So we went over to America to this place called Sunrise, and essentially the system that they use in Sunrise is that they say, he's where he is, go and join him, be with him, do what he wants to do. Then when he looks around and gives you some attention, draw him into your world, be interested. We painted all the rooms in our bedroom white, so there's no distractions. We got special toys in. We played with him 8 hours a day for 4 years. Through summer, through winter, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Now, people look at what I've done and look at achievements of, I've met Gorbachev, I've worked with, I've got 4 Oscar nominations for a film. They mean nothing if you kiss nothing. After 4 years, we said, the world's now at the playroom. We can't keep him in this room forever. So up until this day, we still have the same way of working with him. When we're with him. He is a lot better. Things move on. He speaks in one-word sentences now. He'll say what he wants. We had a lovely little breakthrough the other day. He normally just says, he doesn't shout. But at 18 was laid there in bed, and we heard his voice from upstairs, iPad. That could have been any teenager. But it was my boy, and I was chuffed. He was letting me know what he wants. Now these are small victories, but fantastic victories. I've written a poem that I'd like to do. So he can do things I can't. I can't swim. but we take him swimming as much as we can, and he's brilliant at swimming. I was thinking when I was listening to all the stuff about IT, how do you write that down? How do you tick that box? He can't ride a bike, but he can swim. Is he coordinated or isn't he coordinated? He's just a person. And like all of us, he has things he can do and things he can't do. So he loves swimming. He flick onto. Thank you for doing that. He loves art. So now I got him this coloured by number thing once, and he filled it in, but he wouldn't use the colour they told him to. I love him for that. He wouldn't even do the margin. He was making his own world, and this is the pavilion that he's doing there in Brighton. So I say we do the things that he likes to do. If you flick on to the next one, this is nature. So he loves being in nature. I've written a poem about this. I think it's very similar to what you do, I'm sure. This is it's a poem I wrote to him. So I think it's very important that you don't just talk about people, really talk to them, and you include them in. My wife, when she knew I was coming here, she said the one thing that she wanted to communicate was don't talk about special needs kids as though they don't understand. Always assume they understand. There's a book that came out recently called The Reasons Why I Jump. It's by a teenage Japanese autistic lad. We're making a film of it at the moment, and my wife's helped to make the film, and I'm helped a little bit. It'll be out later on in the year. And this teenage lad, you wouldn't think he understood anything because he can't communicate. But when he's got a keyboard, he can talk as well as you and I. It's just that the words won't stay in his head. But when he's got a keyboard, he can put them in a linear way. And it was brilliant watching him and seeing that it's not that he doesn't understand it, but he can't communicate. And that's one of the problems we face with a lot of different mental illnesses. It's called If You Ever Climb a Tree. I'm not sure how much weight my head can support, but I enjoy the familiarity, the casual lack of boundaries. Without utterance, we get a sense of someone. If you should ever climb a tree, I will be your low-hanging branch. I will be your low-hanging branch. I want that to be unquestioned. If my neck snaps, it is meant to be. It is the most important thing to know. In the absence of sufficient language, I would rather seek out trees to remind you. Thank you. So I've been on a journey. I help a group called Amaze in Nottingham, which I think is very similar to this. And I know that you're always underfunded. I was talking to some of the bosses earlier about maybe somebody more famous and funnier that we can get for next year to help me out. I really applaud what you're doing, and it's a privilege for me to be up here today talking to you. And when we went to America, we went to see a psychiatrist. I've never been to a psychiatrist. It's not somebody from Bilborough does. But I wanted to get a handle on it. I wanted to be fit to fight. I went to see the psychiatrist, and he said he'd been in business 30 years as a psychiatrist, and everybody that came to him had got the same problem. One problem. I said, well, what's that? He says, they don't think they're good enough. That's the one problem. So I know there's probably people out there, when you're dealing with stuff, you'll probably think that at some point. When somebody's putting shit on the wall, when somebody's hitting you when they don't need to hit you. You get that. But you've got to remember, that's just in your head. And you are good enough. It's an unsung battle that you do. I'm glad today, I know you're going to have an award ceremony, and I love that you do that. You get things like TV awards and film awards, and I've been to loads of them, and they're all patting themselves on the back for doing very little. I'd have said fuck all, but yes. We're irritating, and I know you've got a cricket ground here and a rugby ground here, and I watch football, and I'm watching 22 millionaires kick a bag of wind. As my dad would say. And I think we're living in a weird system that applauds these strange things when people like yourselves are doing great work. I've written a poem especially for you. I don't really know, St. Anne is actually Jesus' grandma. Did you know that? I think it's lovely that you called St. Anne, so I think that's quite nice. This is called Vanguard of Audacious. I was struck with the idea that people think that caring is somehow not a battle, that it's not, because it's so everyday. And I know from having been there that it's a battle every day. So I'd like to leave you with this, and I'll say thank you very much. This is for 10 times. I wrote it about 2 days ago. Kindness is bravery at its brazen best, its boldest and most ballsy. It empowers all it touches. To put your art in the line of fire is as heroic as it is honourable. To be gentle, you offer up a vulnerable underbelly. Empathy and humanity are gifts that entail risk. No matter how everyday it may seem, to dare not to act in self-interest is valiant. To demand dignity for others undaunted is intrepid. To find strength to comfort and challenge prejudice requires courage, however uncool to cynics. To make a stand for justice, equality and even love, yes, love, is never unfashionable, never untimely. To insist that tenderness endures and that mercy is victorious, you put your body above the parapet. To face injury, loss, ridicule and 100 fears, but still have the resolve and compassion is a testament to an indomitable spirit. On whatever scale, the matter-of-factness of such nobility is a quiet but magnificent defiance. I am in awe of your grace and your guts. Thank you very much.